Right, here we go, Land Rover Defender TD5 Gearbox and the centre differential removal. Unfortunately, as you'll have noticed from previous videos that I've been doing, I've been messing around a lot with the clutch mechanism, hydraulic side, mechanical side, and still I've got terrible gear changes. This has had a new clutch put on. I did not put it on, so I don't know what state it's in, whether they actually put one on or not. They did it as part of a chassis swap. So unfortunately I am going to have to drop the gearbox out. Never done it before, and I intend to, rather than take the engine out as some people do, I'm going to drop it down somehow. I'm going to wing it, so I can't say exactly for sure how I'm going to do it. But first of all, today is a day of stripping bits out. I'm going to do it over a few days. It's absolutely bitterly cold, pouring down with rain at times, gale force, all the weather's against me, you get the idea. So I'm going to do it in stages as best as I can. Again, I don't know which parts I'm going to be ordering to repair this, because I'm not exactly sure what's wrong. I know that selecting first is notchy, into second is really notchy, into third and fourth is okay, and fifth is okay. Reverse is a little bit dodgy now and then, but not horrendous. But the worst thing is coming down the box. From fifth to fourth is fine, fourth to third is fine, but trying to find second gear when the engine's actually turning over, you have to wait for the revs to drop, and then you can maybe get it into second, and same thing with getting it back into first. So coming down the box is definitely harder, and I think that's something to do with the brass dog setup that's actually in the gearbox. I don't think it's the clutch side, because of the way it goes in third, fourth, fifth, both up and down. So I don't think it's clutch. It could be the clutch bearing release is one thing at the back of my mind, which I'm sort of hoping it is. It'll be a lot more easier to fix, quick to fix. But I think I'm going to have to split the gearbox open. Never done it before, never done one before, so we'll see how easy or difficult it is. So for the most part today, even just touching this thing, a hand is absolutely nithering, so it's going to be tough, and we'll see how it goes. But first off, I'm going to go underneath. The first things I want loose are the prop shafts to the differential. I'm just taking the differential ones off. I'm not taking the full prop shaft off if I can help it. They are a bit of a pain to get off, and we'll see how it goes. The back one, the rear one, I've had off before when I've done the handbrake, so that should come off okay. But when I did that, it was really tough to get that one off and put the new bolts in, and that's going to be the same for the front one. So we'll see how it goes. I'm not going to film everything because I think I'm going to be pretty much hard at it, but I'll show as much as I can and show which bits I do remove. Now, mine's a right hand drive vehicle. I intend to get it up on the ramps at some point so I can drag out the gearbox. You need to get a bit of height to get this done. I'm doing it all outside on a driveway, no lift from me unfortunately, but what I am going to remove in here to get me going, I need to get the centre cubby box off, I need to get the passenger floor plate off, I need to get the gearbox tunnel off inside, and another thing that I've got going against me is I also have to get the carpet off as well, and at some point the handbrake will need to come off as well. Cable, I'm going to detach the cable at this end because I just put a new one on recently, and I know it's easier to take it off at this end than it is to pull it out of the actual drum, and that's about it. There's some electrical connections which I'll get access to when I got this off, but for the most part today or this morning, if I can get all of this stripped out, cubby box and the two prop shafts off underneath, and get it all up on some ramps, then I'll be absolutely made up. But I suspect I'm fighting the cold here, so we'll give it a go and see what I can get done or not get done. Right, so looking underneath, this is the front prop shaft, should we call it, and these are the fellas we need to get off, and they don't look too bad. I think I lubricated these not long ago with some penetrating fluid. So hopefully I can pull that off. This is the bell housing for the clutch, which is going to come off. I'm not sure if I'm going to drop it off in one, all of this setup, or do it in parts. I'm going to try for one. It depends whether I can get this gearbox crossmember out or not. This is really hard to get out as well, but mine's been off before and I think it's bent anyway. I think they beat the hell out of it in order to get it out. So I think this should slide out quite easy. Famous last words. That's the gearbox, and I need to get the code off this. There's supposed to be a code on here for when you're ordering parts. I can't actually see mine. That's one thing I'm going to check before I start work on it, to make sure I can read it. I remember trying to read it not long ago and I just wasn't a number on there as far as I could see. What else needs to come out? Bits of wiring under here. This thing is heavy, so do not mess about with it. Use a crane, which I'm going to do, which we'll come to later on. I'm leaving the oil in for now. I'm leaving everything in for now. I'm just going to make sure that I can, a proof of point that I can get access to it all. I don't want to start ripping things down if I don't need to. If something gets stuck, then I don't want to be left with a Land Rover. I'd rather drive it in the state it's at now until better weather to sort things out. So if it goes wrong, I'll be putting it back down. So first of all, proof of concept, I'm going to take the hardest stuff off first, which is going to be this guy here. And I know there is a special tool to do it, which is this. It's imperial size, and I've never had much success with this, if I'm quite honest. It just hangs up. We'll see how that goes. I'm going to prop one of the wheels up on the front, and then that enables you to turn the actual prop shaft around, and you can get better access to all these bolts. So we'll do that first of all, and we'll see what sort of progress we make. It is called one wheel, free to move. The other one's still on the deck, and it is secured with some blocks at the back. And hopefully it's on the gear. Handbrake off. And this is where I'm going to be for a little bit. Now you should be able to see how you can turn that to get access to all four bolts. It makes it much easier. At some point I'm going to also have to take this off, so I think I'm going to give this a go first. This is going to be quite nasty to take off, I imagine. I'll give it a go though, and then if I get this cross member off, I can then get much easier access to that. Not sure, it's kind of 6 2/3 with that one. I'll have a proper look at it. Got a bracket over there. Some people do it without removing this, because this is quite tough. You can jack it apart, which I may do, I haven't decided yet. Some people do it by just lowering the gearbox and the tunnel and the central diff onto here and then splitting it there. I've got the crane to do it, so I'm going to try and get this out and give it a clean up while I'm at it. Right, there we go, day one, and it's pretty much in the same state as when I started. In fact, it is in the same state as when I started. My intention was to use, where is he? And I've done it before on the prop shafts, and it's impact wrench on one side and some spanners. You know it's been a bad day when there's tools and bits and pieces laying everywhere. The problem is that this boy here, Mr. Reliable, he became very unreliable. So here is the offending article as to why I've made no progress, and this thing just would not work. It has blown fuses like crazy, and eventually just gave out totally, even when changing the fuses. Checked the fuses, they were fine, and I've had this thing stripped down like you would not believe. And I thought there was water in it, drained all that. There was water in some of the valves, but again it just kept blowing fuses. I ran a direct feed. Initially it was coming off the garage and direct, and had it on an extension which it has worked on before, and I know the longer the wire the worse these things become because of the power they drain at start up. But it did used to work off that, and to cut a long story short, I actually ran power from the house and it worked a little bit and then it tripped, and it was just totally random as to why it was tripping. Eventually, like I say, it gave up. There's actually a reset button on here, and I've never actually seen that. First time I've ever seen it was when I took this off. I traced some of the wires because it died totally. I thought I'd trace the wires, see what they did, see whether they had continuity. And under here there are two huge capacitors, which I'm assuming are capacitors of some kind. And one of them, I think, was shorting out. It wasn't insulated that well, and I think it's been moving around as in here. It's meant to be stuck down. There was a clip on it, but there were both of them moving. So I've insulated them a lot better, and just make sure that's off. And that's off. I'm hoping it's now starting a lot smoother. Before it was struggling to start, you could hear it whirring. So I've been inside, had something to eat. I'll see whether it still works, because usually you turn your back on these things and they don't work again. So let's hopefully fire it up and see whether we're good to go. And oh, that made my heart miss a few beats. Make sure that's off. Power was still off on the wall. Alright, so hopefully this thing will fire up, and I'll be good to go tomorrow. I'm going to give it another go. Right, so that's ready to roll. These are tools I did have all organised, but are no longer organised. Let's get rid of that. I've got about 8 jobs on the go in this garage at the moment. That's a blast cabinet assembly. I'm going to blast down the gearbox when I get it out and give it a good clean and painting, make it a lot better, hopefully. That's a blast cabinet which is under construction at the moment, and I'm also modifying it as well because it don't work that well straight out the box. So I'm waiting on some parts for this, and you can see our grinders and all sorts on the go there. That is all part of this refurb of the gearbox, depending if it is the gearbox or not. Parts washer there, also currently under assembly. That's why there's total chaos in this garage. A few parts there that need putting on. I need to clean it out inside. It's a 2-minute job. It's taken about a day so far, about 2-minute job. And this thing here is part of the engine hoist that I'm going to use. Now I could have rented one of these. It's about £45 it would have been for 2 days, something like that, or a weekend. Whereas this one is actually £99, so I can do it at my leisure. Downside is storing it, and the downside is they only sent me 2 boxes. I said to the guy delivering it, "Is that it?" And he said, "Yeah, that's it." He sent me the top boom, the hydraulic part, a box of bits to stick on there, and the main base, and that's it. Somehow he expects me to make a crane hoist out of that. So I've contacted them, and they said they send them out in separate, but I don't know what they said. They're just messing me around, to be honest, but hopefully, I think they've just forgotten to put it in the pack. And I have to assemble that at some point and store it. So that's what I'm going to use to lift out the gearbox or drop the gearbox once I've assembled all of that. And I've got all tools that I think I'll need to take this job on. That's why I'm doing it. I don't think there's anything that I can't take on. Bolts stuck, bearings stuck. Doesn't really matter what it is. I reckon I've got the tools somewhere in this garage. Hardest thing is going to be to find them. So I'm pretty good to go with everything. If anyone has any idea about Gearbox, of any tips, any hints, if they've done one before, what I should be looking out for, which parts where, and I've said before it's first and second gear, and mainly going from third to second down the box is worse than going up. So if anyone's got any ideas as what it could be. I remember doing, I think when I first bought this Land Rover, I did all the oils on it. I remember some big metal parts coming out at the time, looked a bit like piston rings, and I can't remember, I'm pretty sure they came from the gearbox or the differential, and I think they could be the C-clips that are actually on the gearbox cogs to hold them in place. I think, I mean, this was a long time, many years ago. I just remember looking at them and thinking, whoa, that should not be in there. So maybe something like that's come loose. I'm hoping it's something I can visually easy see. It's like a eureka, there it is moment as to why it's doing it. So yeah, put something in the comments if you have any idea of taking the gearbox out, any good techniques. I've read the forums, obviously, I've looked online, see how other people have done it, mainly it's in pictures, so we'll see how it goes. I'm sort of confident. Weather's going to be the main factor for me. It's going to be tough. It's a pretty nice day. It's supposed to be nice all this week, so it's not bad. It's about 10 degrees at the moment. It's been frost all the rest of the week, so I need to get this done. If I can get the gearbox out and in the garage, at least I can work on it. So hopefully I can get this thing sorted out for winter. It's in pretty good shape apart from this gearbox business. It's had that much done to it. And I'm looking forward to getting it on the road properly. I can't tell you how often it's been off the road with putting bits on, but I need it, and especially the gearbox in the winter, having a dodgy one is not going to be good. So this is the end of part 1. I'm going to have to call it part 1 or stage 1, and call the next one 1.5, I think. That's the way it's going, but hopefully tomorrow, I think the weather forecast is good again. So we'll get the prop shafts off then and start making progress, and I get it at least set up so I can wait for the arrival of the rest of my crane lift, and we'll get going from there on in. Over and out.